Welcome, this is Najma Minhas. Imagine this. You're sitting with friends laughing when suddenly your phone starts buzzing and then it explodes. Or you're walking down the street with your phone in your pocket and without warning it blows up. Now imagine this happening to your child, just like it did to Fatima Abdullah, a 9-year-old who came home from her first day back in school in Lebanon last week. She heard her father's pager beep and picked it up and handed it to her father, and just before then it blew up and killed her on the spot. Sounds like a nightmare. But this really happened. In a coordinated attack of industrial scale terrorism, a scene out of a James Bond movie, around 5,000 pages across Lebanon suddenly exploded around 3:30 p.m. on last Tuesday, leaving over 3,000 people injured, 200 plus critically ill, with their hands blown off and over 12 dead, including 4 children so far. But as if that was not horrifying enough, the next day it wasn't just pagers. Walkie-talkies blew up too, killing 20 people extra.
Lebanon's state-run news agency says several old pager devices exploded in other areas during funeral processions for Hezbollah members killed in yesterday's detonations.
The United Nations has taken strict notice of using means of communication as a method of spreading terror. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, called it a war crime. And while calling for a Security Council meeting, Secretary General Antonio Guterres called this terrorism, preemptive strikes before a full war by Israel.
Obviously, the logic of making all these devices explode is to do it as a preemptive strike before a major military operation.
Though Israel has not commented on this, American sources have confirmed to international media that Israel has briefed them on its actions, but only after the attack. Ironically, after Israel has not admitted that act, its media and citizens were found mocking the victims on social media, sharing memes about the dead.
Boom, 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 and I'm here to say ayo, ayo. We have a name for this operation. Operation Below the Belt. Damn, we have the biggest balls. But are you left with any? I mean, you gotta laugh about it. You know, when you will get out of the hospital. Without fingers, without a wee-wee, without the ability to see. It's very hard to eliminate you one by one. You were attacking us for 11 months with rockets and suicidal drones. And we did not even shoot one bullet.
Israel may never admit, but Hezbollah has accused them of being responsible and has called it a declaration of war. And the leader Hassan Nasrallah has promised a response.
With this operation, the enemy crossed all rules, laws and red lines. It didn't care about anything at all, not morally, not humanely, not legally.
But what could lead to a bizarre terrorist attack like this? And why is the hatred between Israel and Hezbollah so deep, so toxic? In today's video, I want to dive into one of the most complex and long-standing conflicts in the Middle East, the rise of Hezbollah and how it became a powerful force in Lebanon, and why its strained relationship with Israel has resulted in decades of violence. Please subscribe, click the bell icon for notifications, and share the video and like it if you enjoy the content on this channel. Lebanon as a country name is one of the world's oldest. Its history stretches back over 4,000 years. But as a modern independent nation, it was officially founded in 1943 when it gained independence from the French Mandate. The French had taken control after World War I and the fall of the Ottoman Empire. But what makes this tiny country, around 4,000 square miles, 0.001% of the United States, 4 million miles, such a focal point for conflict? A conflict that draws Washington's attention just 5 weeks before the American election. Tiny Lebanon has a population of around 5.5 million people, including the 1.5 million Syrian refugees and the 200,000 Palestinians, many of whom fled to Lebanon during the conflicts after the 1948 Nakba and the 1967 war. The Lebanese population itself is diverse. Around 65 to 70% are Muslims, with an almost even split between Sunni and Shia Muslims. The rest of the population consists mostly of Christians, with a small Druze minority as well. But this demographic complexity is at the heart of Lebanon's political system, known as confessionalism. This is where power is shared amongst its religious groups. And this system, which was meant to keep peace, unexpectedly contributed to the country's descent into civil war, something that was not supposed to happen, as explained by Nassim Nicholas Taleb in his celebrated book, The Black Swan. In 1975, Lebanon plunged into a brutal civil war that lasted 15 years and claimed the lives of over 120,000 people. What caused this devastating conflict? Well, the confessional political system, established in 1943, mandated that the president must always be a Christian, the prime minister a Sunni Muslim, and the speaker of parliament a Shia Muslim. While this worked for some time, over the decades, as Lebanon's Muslim population grew much larger, especially its Shia community, they started feeling that they were being politically and economically marginalized. Shia Muslims living mostly in southern Lebanon were neglected by the central government. They had little access to basic infrastructure and felt excluded from power. But the civil war wasn't just about internal tensions. The presence of PLO and Israeli fears of PLO becoming a national player in Lebanon drew in regional powers like Syria, Israel, and Iran. And in 1982, Israel launched a full-scale invasion of Lebanon that could change the country forever. And Beirut, the capital city, which was the hub of the cultural, economic, social, and intellectual life in the Arab Middle East, known as the Paris of the Middle East, was destroyed in this fight between the Palestine Liberation Organization, the PLO, and Israel. Israel invaded Lebanon in an operation that they called Peace for Galilee, and their goal? To expel the PLO, which had set up its operations in southern Lebanon after being kicked out of Jordan during Black September of 1970, a bloody operation in which thousands of Palestinians were ruthlessly massacred, and a little-known Pakistani officer, Brigadier Ziaul Haq, had a dark role. After Black September, PLO had set up in southern Lebanon, close to Israel's border, and this started a process of strikes and counterstrikes between the PLO and Israel. Israel's invasion culminated in the infamous Sabra and Shatila massacre, where Christian militias, backed by Israeli forces, killed thousands of Palestinian refugees in Beirut under the then Defense Minister Ariel Sharon, who would later go on to become Israel's Prime Minister. This brutal incident only fueled more hatred and resistance in the Lebanese Muslims. Israel's invasion and massacres of the Sabra and Shatila created the Muslim grievances and sense of insecurity. The traditional balance of power that Nassim Taleb talks of in The Black Swan was disturbed, and then Israel achieved something that soon became its biggest challenge: the expulsion of PLO from Lebanon, which created a power vacuum that was soon filled up by a much more powerful and frightening player, Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
Hezbollah. Hezbollah. Hezbollah.
Hezbollah.
But what exactly is Hezbollah, and how did it transform from being a militia into one of the most powerful forces in Lebanon? Hezbollah, which means the Party of God, was formed as an indigenous Shia force inspired by the Iranian Revolution. It initially positioned itself as a resistance force fighting against the Israeli occupation in southern Lebanon, but very soon started getting backing from Iran and Syria. Hezbollah quickly filled the power vacuum the Israelis had created when they expelled the PLO from southern Lebanon in 1982. They were now a Lebanese force resisting occupation by a foreign country, Israel, so gained popularity amongst the Lebanese Shias due to its anti-Israel stance and its military successes. Iran provided Hezbollah with financial support, with weapons and military training through the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, the IRCJ. This gave Hezbollah the resources it needed to grow into a powerful organization. They conducted a high-profile suicide attack in 1983, bombing the U.S. Marine barracks in Beirut, which killed 241 U.S. soldiers. And in a second truck bomb, targeted French barracks, which killed 58 French paratroopers. It was one of the deadliest attacks on U.S. military personnel outside of a war zone. And this led to the withdrawal of U.S. and French forces from Lebanon. In 1990, the end of the Civil War, it was agreed that all factions would put down their arms. However, Hezbollah claimed it needed them so that it could continue to resist Israel, who still occupied part of the country. Hezbollah's military wing continued throughout the 1990s with regular attacks on Israeli forces in southern Lebanon, leading to decades of violence. Between 1985 and 2000, the Israelis maintained a military presence in southern Lebanon, where it created a buffer zone to protect its northern border. This occupation ended in 2000, following years of resistance primarily from Hezbollah. However, both parties continued exchanging firepower. The conflict between Hezbollah and Israel reached a boiling point in July 2006 when Hezbollah fighters conducted a cross-border raid, killing and capturing Israeli soldiers. Israel responded with a full-scale military operation in southern Lebanon. For 34 days, Israel bombarded Hezbollah targets, and Hezbollah fired thousands of rockets into northern Israel. The war caused massive destruction in both countries, but it ended in a stalemate, with no clear resolution. Both countries remain technically at war, with no formal peace agreement. And the Blue Line, a UN-designated border, which was drawn after Israel's withdrawal from southern Lebanon in 2000, serves as a demarcation line. However, the 2006 war bolstered Hezbollah's image as a resistance movement within Lebanon and across the Arab world. Despite the destruction, Hezbollah's leadership was hailed as victorious and for standing up to Israel. However, Hezbollah's influence wasn't just limited to military actions. By the 1990s, it had also transitioned into a political force in Lebanon. In 1992, Hezbollah participated in Lebanese parliamentary elections for the first time, gaining seats in government. And over time, it would solidify itself as a major political party, holding cabinet positions and controlling important aspects of the Lebanese government. It still gets huge support because of the social work it does, through running a network of social services, schools, hospitals and charities, particularly in impoverished Shia majority areas, where the government is absent. But what about Hezbollah's role today? With their military strength and political power, what does this mean for Lebanon's future and its relationship with Israel? Hezbollah, led by Hassan Nasrallah since 1992, claims to have over 100,000 men, although analysts put this number closer to 20 to 50,000 men. One of the key reasons that Hezbollah has become so powerful in the region is its relationship with Iran. In fact, Hezbollah is often referred to as Iran's most important proxy in the region, leading its axis of resistance. Through Hezbollah, Iran has extended its influence across the Middle East, particularly in Lebanon, Syria. Iran provides Hezbollah with weapons, money, military training, and it allows Hezbollah to maintain one of the most organized and capable militias in the world. This Iran-Hezbollah alliance forms part of this broader Shia crescent, which stretches from Iran through Iraq, Syria and Lebanon. Iran's way of challenging the US and Israeli dominance in the region. But this relationship has also made Lebanon a battleground for regional powers. So what does the future hold for Hezbollah and for Lebanon, you may ask? Lebanon today is a fragile state, and Hezbollah's influence continues to grow. With tens of thousands of fighters and vast arsenal of rockets and missiles, Hezbollah is often considered stronger than Lebanon's own military. Hezbollah's role in the Lebanese government gives it a significant power over the defense and foreign policy. Hezbollah views the liberation of Palestine and the fight against Israel as a core part of its mission, which is why it has remained engaged in conflict with Israel over the years. Hezbollah is considered a terrorist organization by the United States, Israel, several Western countries, and the Arab countries, including Saudis and the UAE. After October the 7th events in 2023, Hezbollah has become increasingly involved in the conflict once again by launching a series of attacks on Israeli positions, primarily from southern Lebanon. Now, these actions were presented as solidarity with Hamas in Gaza. Hezbollah's own strategy was calibrated to avoid a full-scale war, deaths by 1,000 cuts, as they say, focusing on supporting Hamas while preserving its own military strength for a potentially broader conflict with Israel. The group is said to have fired more than 6,000 rockets at Israeli targets since October 2023, and these tit-for-tat strikes have been continuing until this week's actions taken by Israel, which include the killing of senior Hezbollah commanders. It suggests that Netanyahu is now ready for a full-out war with Hezbollah again, and this would be the first major war between the two countries since 2006. I will do another vlog on this to talk about the implications of this war if it continues. Do share with me your thoughts, do like the video and share the video, and let's discuss what your thoughts are on Israel and Hezbollah.